Hello everyone. If you want to go to my free course, type henry-ward.co.uk into Google, then go to Henry Ward Trading, and then this here is my free course. Click on Start Today. If you want to go on to the webinars that I do every Sunday and every Wednesday, click on Trading Academy and then click on Start Today. So this is the Trading Academy. This is the full training, the webinars, direct access to me, everything that you want. So we talked about this as a double bottom here on the Nasdaq over the last week and a half. So we have the Nasdaq here, which has dropped substantially over the last 4 or 5 months, and then we've had now a higher high on this particular scenario here. Now if we zoom out and have a quick look, we don't have massive levels. We have a smaller one there, and we have a couple of here. So we're sort of in that zone between two levels. So we're there between two sort of levels, and we have that sort of little zone. Now, yesterday we had this really small bar here on the Nasdaq. So we had a really small bar here on the Nasdaq yesterday. Short position, entry there, and stop loss above it. So is that a valid trade there to be taken? You would just be about triggered in right now. So 2%, 246. Is that a valid trade? And if it's a yes, why? And if it's a no, why? I want to understand a little bit of people's understanding of this. I want to get people's thinking behind this. If this is a yes, why? If this is a no, why? Well, yes, there was a holiday yesterday, so the market was inactive. I understand that point, but also it's the bar itself is not massively important. We could put our stop loss there above that level. The question inherently lies is that a position where we're looking to short the market? That's the sort of question. Or do we expect the market to continue going up? So that's the question that I'm asking. Do we expect this now to continue going up from there? Or are we expecting this to drop down? That's the sort of question that we're asking. Now, when we look at this, we have the overall momentum going in what direction? Overall momentum is going down. So with that scenario, with just momentum behind it here, you would expect this to go down, wouldn't you? Even just with that sort of sentiment that's in the market. We also have a touch here, a touch there, and we have more or less hit that sort of zone, that level. So that's what we have there at that particular point. So for me, is that a level there? Absolutely. Is that a trade there? Also for me, it looks like a trade there. Would I be looking to take profit the whole way down to the bottom here? Absolutely not. I want my take profit exactly where it is. Even if we open the stop loss up here, which we did, I still want my take profit just there, just in case it doesn't break this low. What you could do is if you get close to it, then trail your stop loss. So the question comes down to, do you think there is more downside in the market, or do you think there's an upside in the market? So for me, yes, there is a trade there, and we're looking for it to drop. S&P, the S&P has already moved a little bit to the downside. Well, it looks like it, because remember, we've had a couple of really bullish days. We've had some really bullish days. Now, is anyone really bullish enough that they expect the market to continue going up? I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. I know I'm not bullish enough to expect the market to continue going down. I would expect it to sort of come back down into there, or even back down double bottom, and then potentially take off. So there is a little bit of growth, there's a little bit of green shoots of growth starting to show. We've had our first higher high here, which is amazing. So now what we want to do is come back either to that level or this one here. Come back into an area where we would expect it to bounce. Come back into an area where we want the bouncing to happen. So we are starting to see slowly starting to potentially move. And the same with the Dow. It's had a much bigger sell-off in the futures market here than it has on the other market. So looking at this one, it didn't quite come back to that level there. It didn't quite hit that level. Same as the Nasdaq. But on this one, we've missed the boat. This one as well, we've missed the boat. Nasdaq, the trade is still valid. It's a matter of whether we put our stop loss up there or whether you put it there, depending on your risk to reward parameters. So looking across Nasdaq, S&P, and Dow, do we now think that this is a sell? Do we still think there's a bit of momentum to the downside in this? Do we think there's not a sell in this? So let me have a look at eToro charts before I say yay or nay on these. Stop loss there. Entry there. Take profit about there. $12,602. 12,929. Here's a sell. Okay, won't let me put my stop loss any higher. Change that down to X10. Risking 100 quid. Go my BTC. 85. Take profit. Now with this one, I'm going to put in a level 843. 02. So 2 1/4, 2 1/3 to 1. So I'm happy to set that order. And we'll find out. I'd imagine I'll be triggered in quite shortly. So I'm happy to place that trade. So the entry on the eToro was it's not perfect. I'd like the entry there, but we're very close to it. Oh, we're 30 pips away. So yes, I'm happy enough to take that. And let's see how that runs. So German DAX. So we have a sort of a soft level on the German DAX, and we want that to come back. So we'd like to have 1 or 2 days of this coming back. 1 or 2 days of this coming back will be quite nice. So the idea here on this particular scenario is we work out, hopefully, this has 2 bars coming back. I'd like to see this come down and then the next day come down nicely and give us a nice low test bar on this particular scenario right there. That'd be ideal. But the problem is the market is not giving us ideal setups. It's telling us exactly where it's going to come and then jumping one way or the other. So when it pulls back to here, we expect that to pop back up. French CAC. French CAC, a little bit similar. A little bit similar. We have a much softer level there. But we also have this green sort of level there. Let me have a look. The green level's coming from here. So I'd expect that if it's going to come back, I'd expect it to come back probably to that green sort of area, but there is support and resistance there. There is a little support and resistance there. So bounce, and then a retest. So if it comes back in there, there is a potential trade there. But remember, the German DAX looks a little bit better in its setup than the likes of the French CAC. It's just one of those ones that haven't really set the world alight, and it just hasn't come back properly. Also, we keep getting these gaps, whereas if we look at the German DAX here, it doesn't gap as much. So the French CAC seems to gap more than the German DAX. UK 100, we are getting to this area here where we'll get some sort of rejection. If I extend that on there, we are at the top of that sort of trend line there. So there probably will be some sort of bounce at this area. But again, let's sort of wait and see. For me, it has to break and then retest on this. If it breaks and retest, then that is an ideal setup. China really hasn't got anywhere in the last what, month and a half, 2 months, really gone nowhere. Just sort of stay away from it. Let it play itself out. This looks like it's the bottom. If we were looking to invest and you wanted to invest in this is sort of the time we'd be looking to sort of invest in this. What is it? CQQ, I think. Is that CQQ? The Chinese technology. So we're back at that level. Seems to be sort of where we're getting a floor, seems to be where we're actually sort of getting this. And there's looks like these lows seem to be getting a little bit higher. So there seems to be a little more bullishness at the present moment. It's the most bullish we've seen it in a good while. Look at these lows are getting lower. Look at these lows, double bottom and slightly higher and then higher. Okay, but can't guarantee it's going to turn, but it's given us something to indicate that this is starting to turn. So looking across all of the markets there, so we've the Nasdaq, which has had a double bottom and the first pop to the upside. S&P, which has had the same, a double bottom and the first pop to the upside. I say first, sorry, the second pop to the upside. It's made the first higher high. So past this one. So the same with the Dow. It's also made its first higher high since here. So since March, it's 2 months since it's last made its last higher high. We have China here, which is plateaued here. And then we have the German DAX, which is plateaued and again made a little higher high, and the same with the French CAC. Moved sideways, has made a higher high. Do we think that we're starting to see the end of this downward momentum? Do we think that we're going to get a little bit of bullishness? Do we think we're going to see a little bit of a leveling off? Do we think this is the potential time to be buying into the likes of these indices? Yes or no? What do you guys think? Or are you still holding fire? Well, for me, I can see value in this now at the minute. So for me, I can see a little bit of value in this. I can see a little bit of area where we can actually start looking to potentially buy into these now as an underlying asset. I'm not massively gambling or betting on this is going to continue going up from this particular point. It may drop more, but it's a point where I can pop in a little bit of money and slowly start buying up some of these. Anyone who is using the likes of the QQQ or the SPY as their retirement fund, this is a really, really good time to potentially be looking to buy up those. Really good time to be buying up those. Have a look into oil. So oil is now broken this level. Anyone know what oil has broken that level? Has anything come out recently for this to take off? So Holland has refused to pay Russia for oil in rubles. So rubles, that's it. Rubles. So what Russia have done is they're turning off Holland's gas supply. So there's a little bit of pressure. There's a little bit of pressure from the likes of Russia on Europe with the likes of this. Europe also didn't agree to a ban on European oil. But between the two of them, it's been quite negative for the European market, which means then that oil has taken a little bit of a jump over the last couple of days. Now, once oil sort of hits, I'm going to say the body of that candle there, rather than the top of the wicks, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. It'll be very interesting to see. I would expect a big sell-off again. Something similar to this, but probably not as aggressive. Probably not as aggressive. And it'll be very interesting to see, will it, if it comes up and hits that level there, will it then come back down to this floor, this floor here? And if it hits that floor, then does it then bounce back up to the upside? Now, if you still think that that's going to go up to this area, now we are overextended, but we have broken that horizontal level there, that previous double top. So that's quite important that we've broken that top there. So we could potentially drop down to the 4 hour and have a look at this, and potentially trade this on the likes of the 4 hour. And again, we're not getting much cyclicity along here. There's a sideways, then took off again. So for us to be trading this on a smaller time frame, we do need some sort of a pullback to there, and then we'd look to take off. Now, if that come back to there in a 4 hour, you're trading a 4 hour off a daily horizontal. So there's the daily horizontal. So if we get a 4 hour pullback to there, that'd be really, really nice. natural gas. So natural gas did exactly what we talked about on the previous webinars. Now, like I said on Sunday, we sort of put a limit order there, and we didn't anticipate the big swing like this with the wick. That was the big thing that we didn't see. We didn't anticipate that happening. So anyone who put the limit order there would have been potentially triggered in and then triggered out. But look, it's come back down exactly where we expected to come back down. The question was, would it hit this floor again? Or would it just continue going? And it's come back the whole way down to about here. And it looks also like it's going to come back down and retest here. But then on the other side of it is if oil takes off, we're probably going to get a little more bullishness on oil or on natural gas. But remember, is generally when one of them takes off, the other one doesn't. So what we've been seeing is we've seen people jump into either one or the other. When oil is running, gas generally slows down. When oil is not running, gas generally takes off. So bear that in mind. We are seeing a switch. So generally the two of them don't run at the same time. Is anyone at the minute currently shorting natural gas? Anyone currently shorting gas? So Shane, where is your take profit in this, or are you trailing your stop? Have you a certain area you expect this to drop down to? Because we have a big wick there. So basically that level can change from there down to there. So we have sort of a zone here. So it's not just one sort of area. There's a big sort of zone between these wicks, and that's sometimes a little bit subjective when we're trading the likes of this. Now, why I've put it there is because that's a whole number, the 8.000 level. Okay, so that's why that's there. So it's a whole number rather than anything else. The markets tend to react to whole numbers, which is, look at this whole number here. It rejected 9.00. Again, rejected the 8.00 level. Now, it also becomes psychology numbers and stuff like that there, but it doesn't always, but the market likes to use round numbers. Wheat. So wheat, we had a little pop to the upside, so it now made a higher high and triggered us in. And at the moment, we're about 60% down. So the risk 100 quid, probably 60 quid down on this particular trade. So let's see how it plays out. Will it have a little bit of recovery today, or will it continue dropping? So that trade is triggered in at the moment. Anyone who's taking this trade and it hasn't triggered in, trade is still valid. Sort of leave it there and let's see what happens. Anyone who's in this trade, if you think it's going to continue going down, close the trade a little bit early. But for me, I'll be leaving it there and seeing what happens at the moment. Today has been a bullish bar, a little bit annoying, but let's see what happens, whether it will turn around or not. Gold and silver. So gold and silver, we talked about this sort of high test bar here being the area where we expected the market to drop. But the problem is there was no real level there for us to take that trade. I talked about that on Sunday, going, where do I take it? Do I just randomly take that high test bar there? So it's not something that's massively jumping out at me that it's a great trade. But there was a level there, and look, it's popped to the downside. So silver wasn't something that was on the agenda. Why? Because it had broken that level. Yes, I understand the body is sort of sitting on the horizontal, but again, it's not something that I would have taken. It's a random bar in the middle there, and it's popped to the downside since. Whereas gold hasn't had that pop yet. But gold was a valid trade here. We had that high test there. We put our stop loss a little bit above the horizontal, and we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of sidewaysness. Okay. So we haven't had that same momentum to the downside on gold as we had on silver. We have a quick look on silver. Silver, look, has had a little breakout to the downside. Now, hopefully gold will continue suit and it will pop to the downside as well. But again, that all comes down to whether we're getting dollar weakness or dollar strength at the present moment. Let's have a quick look at dollar. So Euro USD and Euro USD today has had a little bit of dollar strength. So it's had a little bit of dollar strength. So we've had a little pop to the downside on this particular one. And let's see if this is going to continue. And if we look at euro, let's have a look at this level. We did have a pretty decent level. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. Off that level. And it took this long, it went up to a 1.5 to 1. And now look, we're back just about inside break even. Just about break even. So with US dollar, guys, do you think, looking at the likes of this, we have more downside or we have more upside? Which do you think is expected? More downside, or is that just a little blip and the upside is going to continue? Which of the two do you think is more likely? Okay, so most people think there is more upside. Well, I actually sort of disagree. I disagree. I do expect a little more downside in this. If I'm being honest, I do think dollar will continue getting stronger against euro, which means then we have a little bit of more euro weakness. But again, well, let's see how this plays out over the next couple of days. I understand that we've had a nice little run here to the upside on euro. And we've had dollar getting weaker. But I do think we will have more dollar strength over the next month. Month of June, I would expect dollar strength. But again, it's looking at historical trend here rather than looking at what's happened over the last 2 weeks. And the same with Aussie. Look, Aussie dollar, Aussie's getting stronger. GBP US dollar, look, GBP is getting stronger. CHF, look, CHF is getting stronger. NZD is getting stronger. And JPY, look, JPY is getting stronger. But in those, or sorry, and last one is US dollar or USD CAD. And look, CAD getting stronger. But in the likes of these, we have some key areas like GBP USD. We talked about on the webinar, one of two things happening: having a double top there and a dropping, or a break and retest. Now, again, I have no idea or no guarantee of how far this phase two is going to happen or how far it's going to go down. But looking at this, that's a double top there, and we've had a pretty big sell-off since then. Did anyone take that as a sell? Anyone take that short? You had the order on the previous bar, so you had your entry there. Okay, so you're in it slightly. Now, for me, okay, so we had the previous bar there. Okay, so we had the previous bar, and the market hasn't moved. As a trader and someone who is a little bit more aggressive, I will always move my entry up onto that inside bar because my stop loss is in the same place. My stop loss in the same place, but why I'm doing that is for a greater risk to reward. I'll always put it on the inside bar. My stop loss is at the same point. And if the market drops like it has today, it's almost at a 1-to-1 already. So what's this? 0.4 or 0.35, and this one is 0.37. So 0.6% up at the moment. So there's only how far it has to go for a 1-to-1, and you'd probably expect that to hit a 1-to-1 today, more or less. Okay, so that's the ideas. So yeah, you could have been triggered in and triggered out doing that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But when I take a trade like this, I have no problems being triggered in and triggered out. Now, why have I no problems being triggered in and triggered out on a trade like this? Is because I know I am being aggressive. I know I'm being very aggressive on this trade, and there's a high probability of me being triggered in and triggered out on it. But I also know if I get this correct, that I can hit a 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1, the whole way down to here, okay, which is a 5.7-to-1. Why? Because I was really aggressive on the entry. So when I get an entry like that, I like to be sort of give my trade a little bit of run. I give it a little bit of room. I like to get more than a 3-to-1 on it because I know however many times I will do that, I will get triggered in and triggered out. But by letting this run that extra little bit further and the more downside on it here, it covers those losses that I will have on the aggressiveness of this trade. What other one also was at a level? Okay, again, we had NZD double topped here. So we talked about it again, a break and retest, or hitting its head and then dropping. So we have GBP and NZD both at those levels. And if we look at this is actually a much better level, as in 1, 2, 3 touches. It's done this 3 times. It's done this 3 times before. So will this drop? I would expect it to. Now again, back to where we went from here. So if we expect dollar to continue getting stronger, we would expect gold to get a little bit weaker, wouldn't we? So that would theoretically help our short position here on gold. So I've been triggered into the Nasdaq. So we've been triggered into that short there. Let's see how it runs. Let's have a quick look at BTC. I put a post up on Instagram and I asked you guys, in this particular scenario, is that a breakout or is it a fake out? Now, as I'm drawing this up, what do you guys think? Breakout or fake out? Now, what a breakout is this, where it's after breaking out of this sideways little movement, this downward fake out. So this downward triangle or a descending triangle is after breaking out. Now, what a fake, or the difference between a breakout and a fake out is a breakout will continue going. A fake out will come back in. So just to show you the difference. So a breakout would continue going up. It will, and then come back down. And then the trend will continue going up. Now, what a fake out is that this is today's bar. Tomorrow's bar does this. Next one does this. Does this. Hits the floor. Pops back up. Pops back up. Back up. And then down again. And that's the difference between a breakout. That's a breakout. And this is a fake out. Similar to Instagram, most people expect this to be a fake out. So it's quite interesting to see how it will actually play out. But we seem to have sort of settled at that 27,000 mark. Let's see, will we get a little pump to the downside now to the 21K, or whether we'll get a little bit of a pump to the upside? It'd be nice to see this run up to 35K again. Cardano. Again, this has had a little bit of a drop to the downside. And since very, very similar to Bitcoin, it's hit this floor and then pop back up. Did anyone jump in at this level? This level that we'd marked, 0.464. Did anyone buy some more at that level? And is it at the end of the month, end of June? We have the forking on ADA, if I'm not mistaken, which you would expect some sort of a little bullish move on that, depending on how bullish the crypto market is. Well, look, everyone, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for everyone for listening, and hope you all have a lovely evening. Okay, speak to you later, everyone. Bye bye.